And this is a history, again, that most Americans don't know. Most Americans know there was a Korean War. That's about the extent of it. There was a Korean War. We were fighting against communism, and that's it. Koreans are demanding that the U.S. end the Korean War 70 years after armistice. Today marks the 70th anniversary of the Korean War armistice, which brought a cessation of hostilities between the opposing parties. Both left the peninsula locked in a permanent state of war. Article 4 of the armistice stipulates, and you're going to love this, within 3 months after the armistice agreement is signed and becomes effective, a political conference of higher level of both sides beheld by representatives appointed, blah, blah, to settle through negotiation the questions of the withdrawal of all foreign forces from Korea and the peaceful settlement of the Korean question. Within 3 months. That was supposed to happen within 3 months. That was 70 fucking years ago, and we're still sitting in the Korean Peninsula. Nonetheless, the U.S. to this day has refused to sign a permanent peace treaty or withdraw its troops from the South Korean territory. Campaigning for an end to the 70-year U.S. military occupation of Korea and a formal end to the Korean War, thousands of South Koreans will form a human peace chain around the 3,600-acre U.S. military base in Pyeongtaek, South Korea on July 27th, known as, that's today, by the way, Camp Humphreys. The garrison is the largest U.S. overseas base in the world, hosting nearly 28,500 combat-ready U.S. troops and battle-ready material. 28,000 troops still in South Korea, ready at the drop of a hat to do all the horrible things that our troops do. And this is just one of our 800 roughly military bases around the world encircling the globe. This is one of them with 28,000 troops at it. Who knows how much military tonnage of weapons and bombs. And we act like we're a peaceful nation. We're here to bring peace. We just encircle the globe with fucking military bombs, guns, and roided up 18-year-olds. And we just see how it goes. How does it go from there? Let's see here. The common thread in this year's global Korea peace action is the renewed focus on the U.S.'s role in one of the most brutal wars of the 20th century. In 3 years of the war, the U.S. dropped over 635,000 tons. And this is a history, again, that most Americans don't know. Most Americans know there was a Korean War. That's about the extent of it. There was a Korean War. We were fighting against communism, and that's it. They don't understand the extent of the bombing, of the destruction, of the death that was wrought just straight out of Lucifer's anus. 635,000 tons of bombs, more than we dropped in all of World War II. All of the World War II theaters combined, we dropped less than we dropped on Korea. Indiscriminate carpet bombing and napalming destroyed nearly 90% of major cities and villages in North Korea, killing an estimated 4 million, more than half of whom were civilians. And even when you say others weren't civilians, well, if you lived in a village and your village was being attacked, would you not take up a gun to defend yourself? So now you're not a civilian. So a lot of those non-civilians, the other half, a lot of them were just people that took up guns because their village was being invaded, which I feel like a lot of people would probably do that. Infrastructure was obliterated, farmlands razed, families shattered, and more than 2 million children orphaned. 2 million children orphaned. The world's most demilitarized zone was established along the 38th parallel, permanently dividing the nation, leaving 10 million family members separated and more than 80 million Koreans living in a perpetual state of war. 80 million, 10 million families separated, meaning your grandparents, for some people, their grandparents got stuck in North Korea and they're in South Korea. And they're not at war with their grandparents. They're just stuck in different nations. I mean, the devastation was just unbelievable. There's a famous quote from one of the top U.S. generals basically saying that they didn't know what else to bomb. They had bombed everything that moves in that country, every bit of infrastructure, and they were just out of things to bomb. They had bombed so much. And this is all because of what? Because there was going to be the red tide of communism. You need to kill this many people. I mean, the estimates are that a third of Korea's population, men, women, and children, were killed. A third of the population. And this is something I like to point out when people are like, oh, North Korea is crazy, right? Always threatened with their nuclear weapons and they don't let people in and stuff. And it's like, I don't endorse an authoritarian state. I don't like the way North Korea treats their people. But you can kind of understand the fear of outside nations when a third of your people were murdered. The U.S., like, they're like, why does North Korea hate the U.S. so much? Maybe because we killed a third of their people. Imagine if there was a nation right now that had recently, like in recent time, this is 70 years ago, in recent time, had killed a third of America's citizens. How do you think we'd feel about that country? Let's also remember that the U.S. does everything it can to continue this perpetual war with North Korea, even to the extent that Donald Trump, despite being a racist, megalomaniacal, lunatic guy with, I'm going to say, not an impressive body type, despite being, just kidding, leave his body type out of it. Why'd you have to say that, Lee? Oh, and now I'm picturing his body. Why did that happen? But Donald Trump, despite being all these horrible things, he did try and create peace with certain nations, not because he cares about any human being, but because, I don't know, they thought it looked good for his legacy. He thought it would make him look like a big, strong guy. He did something the United States had not been able to do until he came along, those kind of reasons. But he was about to make peace with North Korea. That was actually going to happen. And then John Bolton and Mike Pompeo and the U.S. war machine and the Pentagon and the CIA and really all the Democrats and the mainstream media. Do you remember the mainstream media coverage as Donald Trump was getting ready to sign possible peace deals with North Korea? The mainstream media coverage was, Donald Trump's in bed with Kim Jong-un. Oh, my God. They're diddling each other. Oh, he's gonna. And then they'd say, oh, Kim Jong-un was doing things just to scare everybody. It was just insanity. It was like the 100 Chinese secret police stations that are across the U.S. Oh, really? Are there 100 secret Chinese police stations? You think that's true? Or you think that's utter bullshit, like I covered the reality of it a week ago? That there's actually been no proof of secret Chinese police stations, but our mainstream media doesn't care about proof. They don't care about evidence. They don't care about reality. Anyway, they jumped in. Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, the rest of it really was the entirety of the U.S. Beltway class jumped in to stop peace with North Korea, to make sure that we would continue to have an endless war with North Korea. And they succeeded. So, but as I'm covering, this is a bit of a positive. This is North Koreans demanding peace, wanting maybe, I don't know, to see their family members again who are on the other side of the line, but demanding the U.S. war machine out of their country. And I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe in my lifetime we will see a peace between North and South Korea. Of course, South Korea is mainly just subordinated to the U.S., so it's doing whatever the U.S. tells it to.